Hey guys, today I'll be showing you how to take apart and clean your Tippmann X7 Phenom. The first thing you're always going to want to do before you clean your gun is make sure there's no rounds or air in it. When you go to take this apart, it uses one American Allen wrench. It's the 1/18 wrench right there, and the cyclone feed will use the 3/16 wrench, so you'll want those handy. How I like to start taking this apart is with the barrel shroud. Now, if your barrel shroud's different, they still come off the same way, so I'll flip it over. And sometimes these are stuck, so I like to use a screwdriver to push it out a little bit. You just slide those in the holes. Make sure not to scratch your gun though with the screwdriver, only hit the bolt, and then they just pull out really nice like that. And if you notice, they're different sizes. The bigger one goes on the bottom, but it's easy to figure that out when you go to put it back together. So then you just pull it forward. This one takes a little pressure, and then it's out. The second thing I like to do is I like to take off the barrel because it's kind of vulnerable and I don't want to damage any of that, especially since barrels are pretty expensive. So unscrew that. There it goes. Alright, so here's your X7. For convenience, I'll remove the hopper. It's a simple twist and then pops off. Makes it look a lot less. I'll take the mag out too, just a simple release. The button's right there. Okay, so if you haven't taken apart one before and have taken apart other Tippmann guns, the cyclone feed's a little different in the sense that you can't really pull the air hose off. So what I like to do is I'll take a flathead screwdriver and I'll just unscrew it onto where it connects to the actual cyclone feed. Now when you do this, it's important to remember that there are little O-rings in here. You don't want to lose any of those. And also this piece is going to be sticking out here, so you got to make sure not to put a lot of pressure on it now. So then I'll flip it over and I'll remove the cyclone feed, which is the bigger Allen wrench. It goes right in there. And then just till it stops turning. And now this entire piece right here will disconnect, just like that. And you can push this bolt out so that you don't lose it later on. There it goes. Right out. Alright. Then I like to take out the buttstock. So what I'm going to do is I push with my thumb on the back side to loosen them. And that one's in there good. So if they're in there good, you can sometimes hit them. But be very careful when doing that. A lot of times I'll put like a screwdriver right there. And then I'll hit the screwdriver. Kind of a pain to get out sometimes, so there it goes, and then you can just pull the buttstock off. Set that aside. Okay, the last quick release bolt is right here for the trigger guard. You can just pull that out, and then the entire trigger guard comes off. You just pull it straight down. There it goes, and you can see I got a little grease here, so I'll wipe that down. Alright. Okay, so there's your X7 body right there. This is when you have to get the smaller Allen wrench and start unscrewing these bolts. It's pretty simple. You do the one there. This gun's actually really nice to take apart compared to Tippmann's A5 and 98 series because it doesn't have a lot of internal parts and it doesn't have any loose springs, which I love. I always hate those little pieces. They're really easy to lose and they're not cheap to replace. I mean, they're relatively cheap, but it still costs a little. So unscrew these just like that, and then there's one right here, but I don't have that one. And then you're going to want to unscrew this as well. There it goes. Okay, and then this one you actually got to take all the way out like that. Okay, and then this just slides off the back, and there's the sight. And now, find somewhere where you can put pressure and just lightly pull up to split it in half. If you do this soft enough, nothing should move on the inside of this. So there we go. I'll take this out and just discard this over here. So here's the internals of the X7 Phenom. Here's the flex spool system right here. Very, very simple. It's really nice. There's a few parts that you really need to clean. If a ball's bursted in the barrel, this whole area is going to be dirty. You want to make sure you don't lose that little orange thing, the barrel catch. So you can take this out, it just slides right out, and now your cyclone air hose will drop out, so you can set that over there. This thing has two pieces to it that you can take apart easily. The tip, and then this. Those are the only two pieces, which is great. Alright, so now that it's apart, you can wipe it down and clean it. I've already done that, so I don't need to. The Phenom's nice in that it only needs oil in one place, and that one place is right in here. And that's where this sits, so you might want to get some oil on that as well. And basically, you take your oil, and since mine's already been oiled, I'm not going to do this, but just dabble a little bit there, like a pea-sized drop, and then smooth it around with your finger, really get it in there. And then take what's left on your finger and run it over the silver, and then take what's left of that and run it on this part. Also, if you haven't noticed, this has a little rubber washer there, so if you get paint in here, you can clean behind it. Like, I got some paint on there actually, so you can clean it up really nice, make it look good. I like to put a little oil on the washers just to keep them loose, so we'll scrub that down, wipe it off. You want to be careful with these though, you don't want to tear them, that would be very bad. You have to replace it, so stab that in there, stick it back. Alright, now that your gun's clean, let's put it back together. So you take the flex valve right here, and you're just going to set it in your gun. If you notice, it has this little piece right here, and that is going to go facing up. So you just set it in like this. There it goes. Alright, so this pointy piece goes up. So that sets in there, and then you're actually going to want to lift it up, slide that on. Now the interesting thing is, after you get it lined up, this, you can remove it. This thing goes in this notch right here, so it sets there like that. Not a big fan of that, but that's the only downside of this gun, and I think I can live with it. So then the spring there, and I like to put the spring and the O-ring in and then slide this into place really nice so that the O-ring doesn't get moved. And there you go. Now to put the ball catch in, it's very important you get it so the ramp is facing away from this. Otherwise it'll slice that off and you will no longer have the ball catch. So make sure that's the right direction. And then you're going to stick this in. If you look at this, it's got these two notches. So you're just going to want to make sure those line up. There's a notch in here, so they go in kind of sideways like that. That's to keep it so when you go to screw your barrel in, this doesn't move. Alright, now that all that's together, you're going to want to flip it over. And I forgot about this, you got to make sure the remote line is in place. So just disconnect that a little bit, you see right there. And then this slides in, the pointy end goes in first, and it just goes right in the thing. And then you push the thing in on the other side. It's kind of a pain, so I'll flip it over so you can see it better. And then you push that in, call it good, make sure your O-ring line's back up. And there you go, lock that into place. And now that's on the other side, so you got to be careful again with it. And it's basically all the internals are in place. So you can put the rest of your gun back on top of it. So we'll do that right here. And you gotta line it up. Takes a little bit. There it goes. Okay. And there you go. You don't have to worry about any springs out of place because the Phenom doesn't have any springs. I like to screw down 2 screws now. I'll take one on one side, one on the other side. That way the gun's all squished together nice. And the rest of the screws will go in a lot easier. So we'll do these 2. And as you see, I'm still holding it up because I don't want to hurt my remote line, or sorry, my cyclone feed air line. So I'll stick those in. And then screw this in. Alright, and then you should have another screw as well, but I don't have one because I lost it on accident. Alright. So this goes in there, Now if you lose any of your, oh sorry, that goes another way. Alright, if you lose any of these parts, luckily there's a website called Tippmann Parts, and they have every single piece for your gun. So I sometimes get my parts from there if I can't find it. I also have a local store I'll go to and see if they have it. Alright, want to make sure these are tight because you don't want to lose any of these Allen bolts. They're not good to lose. Alright, so there it is, all back together. Now that this body part's back together, you're going to want to put the trigger on. If you're unlucky enough to get paint inside this, the way to detach that part is you flip this past safety like that, and then it pulls out. And that'll basically drop out your trigger right here. And as you can see, since I have the electronic version, you can see all the little motors and stuff in there. I don't recommend this as a standard thing you do when you take your gun apart to clean it, because it is kind of hard to put back in and you risk losing the little pieces in here and stuff, and it's just not necessary. So put that back on. I'm gonna make sure mine works real quick. Yep, okay. Slap it back to safety. Alright, so to put this on, you just slide it straight on. So line it up over there and then push. Goes on, and it's in there. You're gonna want to put the one in over here. It takes a longer one of the quick bolts. You don't want to put this one in yet because the buttstock has to go in first. So slide that in, and then this one's a longer one on the bottom. Man, mine's hard to put in because this stock is so flush. So I'll just tap it in there. Okay. Tap it a little more. There it goes. Alright, now it's in. Alright, and then the one on top's a shorter one. And that goes right in there. Okay. Buttstock's in place. At this time I like to put the cyclone feet on because I am applying pressure and I really don't want to hurt that. So we'll set that in, and this has these two holes here which line up directly with those two holes. So you just kind of fold it in like that, and then of course you gotta screw the line back in. You want to double check, make sure your O-rings are still in place for this, but it just screws on nicely. You want this good and tight because it does have air going through it and you don't want to lose your air. Okay, flip it over and drop that bolt in there, and this goes on there. Alright, screw that down nice and tight, sure there's no wobble. Alright, so now you can put your barrel shroud back on if you want. It just goes in there nice and snug. There we go. And then the short bolt goes on top. Set that in place. And then the long bolt goes on the bottom. Slide that right in there. Alright, now you're going to put the barrel in it. And I always, when I go to put one of these barrels in, I'll twist it the opposite direction, just to make sure it lines up before I twist it the right way, because the threads on these are pretty fine and you don't want to scar them at all. So I do that to make sure that these barrels are always in there nice. Oh, just dropped my magazine, which is the next thing I have to grab. There it is. Alright, so the magazine can go in here as well. Just slides right in there. And then last but not least, you have your hopper. Put it in at an angle, drop it in there, and there you go, your Tippmann X7. Now, as a personal recommendation, I would hook some air up to it and see how it shoots. That way you know you put everything together right, and of course you can also make sure it works before you go out to the field and then discover you made a mistake and your gun's no good. So, hope you liked my video. If you want to check out other videos, go to those links, and please subscribe. Thanks. Have fun cleaning your gun.